receive. Danny Sullivan gets him down. No, he's squirreling. No, he's spinning. Danny Sullivan spins.
For the PPG Cup. Look, oh, look, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes, and he gets him. Can he get him back? High side, then 3 wide. Oh! Larson Evans making that car plenty wide. Tucks in behind him. Almost got into the grass to make the pass.
Penske at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And Josef Newgarden.
Welcome to the first ever podcast episode of Push to Pass. I'm Seth Dolby. This is our temporary co-host, Buddy Pulley. Temporary because he's an Indy 500 only INDYCAR fan, except when he goes.
That's why.
Yes, that's why.
I don't know if this will go on audio or not, but I was a Ryan Hunter-Reay fan. Still am.
You're never not a fan of a guy.
That's very true.
Well, I mean, unless they do something reprehensible or some shit, but
yes.
Yeah, you're never not. And of course, unfortunately, we can get our first lore out of the way of the Push to Pass podcast. Buddy's only Indy 500 was 2022 when Ryan Hunter-Reay did not have a ride. So that's very unfortunate.
I spent the entire weekend asking for where Ryan Hunter-Reay was. He wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I found a new driver to break my heart of Pato Award.
And he's pretty good at that. He is pretty good at that. All right. So Indy 500, the, I guess, Christmas, Motorsports Christmas weekend, as everyone likes to say. Outside of this race, pretty big letdown, I would say.
We got cold. We got a lot of cold.
Got a lot of cold this year. I guess we were bad last year. I'm not really sure.
I don't know what we did.
But yeah, Monaco's Monaco. It is what it is. I don't know why everyone's acting like this is like a new phenomenon. Monaco not being good. It is what it is.
Monaco is a better boat race than it is a motor race.
Yeah,
I guess boats have motors. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time on Monaco. I think if we ever got the F1 cars back down to a reasonable size, I think I would still enjoy to see Monaco on the schedule because it's a cool track. It's just not good for this, style of F1 car.
A lot of pomp and circumstance. Did you see that graph that someone posted of like the Indy 500, all the Indy 500 drivers, where they started versus where they finished compared to the Monaco one?
No, I did
how
not.
Just incredible.
I bet it was out there.
I'll send it to you if you want to put it up. It'd be good. It is a perfect representation of how much better IndyCar is than the other open wheel series.
Yeah, and I mean, even on a normal weekend, but it's exacerbated on Indy 500 weekend for sure. Or I'm sorry, Indy 500 month, for sure. It's just so much more obvious, I guess, to a casual. But obviously, it's not the same thing. But anyway, Indy 500 was great. We're going to talk about it here in a little bit. That's what you clicked on. And then, of course, Coca-Cola 600 was a big, fat, rainy dud.
Confirm. I was there.
If you want to hear more about that, you can hear Buddy, Chuck, and our buddy Peter Strada from TSJ Sports. You can hear them talk about it on the previous episode of the Big Motor Small Blade podcast. I was still en route from Indianapolis, so I could not make it. But today we are going to talk about the Indy 500. All right.
Seth, I do have something I want to say to you and congratulate you on. You completed the double better than Kyle Larson did.
I did. I had a lot more time to get to Charlotte, though.
Yes, that's true. Seth, if you guys did not know, completed the double last year. Obviously, he had some help with some weather and,
I had help with weather, and Kyle got fucked by the weather. Unfortunately, that is...
Would you trade it in for Kyle getting...
If he tries it again...
No,
the answer is no. But honestly, if he tries it again next year and it still doesn't work, something still happens, then yeah, I'd trade it in. I would. Okay. But obviously that's not possible. So anyway, Scott McLaughlin and Penske locked out the front row in qualifying. Aaron McLaren was, I can't remember where Pato and Callum ended up, but Rossi was fourth and Larson ended up fifth. It looked to be a show between Penske and Aaron McLaren from the beginning, and sure enough, that's exactly what ended up happening. The actual players kind of changed up a little bit. It wasn't exactly those those two era McLarens, and it wasn't Scott McLaughlin. And Will Power had a forgettable Indy 500 for sure.
Yeah,
but we're gonna go ahead and get into it. We hadn't had a first lap incident in the Indy 500 since 2015, and by God, we had one this year. Tom Blomqvist completely just got all over the rumble strip in turn 1, spins the thing out, collects poor Marcus Ericsson and Pietro Fittipaldi.
He's used to road racing, man. Give him a break. He's used to using those rumble strips to his advantage.
I guess, and I don't like to get on anybody, but Tom Blomqvist has done he's done absolutely nothing for me this year because, like, well, I'm going to be honest. I know he's a rookie and everything, but Marcus Armstrong's looked a lot better. Rosenquist, his teammate, has done really well this year. He's qualified well multiple times, and then they've kind of fumbled the strategy or whatever. So I'm not particularly impressed with Tom Blomqvist right now. I mean, I understand guys make that mistake. That's pretty bad. And unfortunately, it takes out Marcus Ericsson and Pietro Fittipaldi through no fault of their own. I mean, obviously, you could argue that they put themselves back there, and that's the risk you run. But still, dude, lap 1, get up a little bit.
Yeah, it is the Indy 500. You have a little bit of time.
500 miles, not 500 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to give a shout out to Mike Shank, good buddy of mine. He has no clue who I am, but he drinks Busch Light, so that makes us friends.
Fair point. That is a fair point. All right. A little less than 15 laps later, I can't remember exactly when it was. I wrote down some lap counters for these, and some of them I didn't see when I was rewatching the highlights, so I can't remember all of them.
Still teaching Seth this whole host thing.
Yeah, I'm working on the host thing, so bear with me.
Doing well.
But Linus Lundqvist wrecks in turn 2. He had he had tried to ride the wall, and then it broke the car, and it didn't work. So already within 20 laps, we are already down 2 rookies. Pietro's not a rookie, right?
No, Pietro's not a rookie.
Okay, so yeah, we're already down 2 rookies at this point. The leaders come down the pit lane, and Rinus VK gets an unsafe release penalty on that one, which right call. I don't know.
I would since we have quite a few NASCAR viewers on this YouTube channel, and we've been mainly a NASCAR podcast. You've been on this crusade about unsafe release penalties in NASCAR for a long time. This is a perfect example to explain that to someone who might be watching this that is a NASCAR fan, and explain what an unsafe release penalty is and why we should have it in, other forms of motorsports, specifically NASCAR.
Yes. So in other forms of motorsport, and basically all of them except NASCAR that do live pit stops, as a driver, as a team in the box, you are responsible for getting out safely. And it's like the street. You're not supposed to pull out in front of someone. If you do, or you can pull out in front of someone as long as you can safely do it. And if you can't, you cause an incident, that's a penalty. And like Buddy said, I've been on this crusade in NASCAR for a long time because guys simply just kind of run people over in the pit lane, and it's just kind of okay, and we're kind of going to kill someone someday. And all of a sudden, people will be into making sure we have safe pit road. But yeah, ultimately, there's a lot of window dressing for safety in NASCAR, and we don't have a lot of actual substance there. It's a lot of look at me, we're doing something, kind of.
Yeah.
Yep. So
thank you for that.
Yep. Alrighty. Early on, we already started to get the Honda engine issues. We had 3, and I didn't write down the other one because I'm an idiot. But for sure, Marcus Armstrong, sorry, and Catherine Legg early in the race. And for the life of me,
gosh, I knew who this was. It was someone kind of big, wasn't it?
I'm an idiot. Anyway, yeah. Either way, they were all fairly early, and I just knocked a pin over. But it was, so I can't say exactly what the problem is, but I heard what the problem is.
Felix Rosenquist.
Yes, it was Felix. You're right. Anyway, I've been given the scoop on what the issue is. I'm not going to state it because apparently it's like top secret information, but it has something to do with Chevy and, who owns the series and Honda and who doesn't own the series and, whatever.
Oh, okay.
It has something to do with that.
I think
this is insider information. I can't say who I got it from. Can't say where they got it from. Anyway, so that I had heard that the day before, and then all of a sudden we had a bunch of Hondas going down. I'm like, oh, that's not suspicious at all. So anyway, clearly early on in the race, Scott McLaughlin looked like he was the car to beat in this race early. Did not last all that. It did not last that way, obviously, but he kind of reminded me this race. He kind of reminded me of Simon Pagenaud in 2015, because Simon dominated a lot of that race, and then by the time when it was time to actually go, he kind of faded, and Will Power and Juan Pablo Montoya got up there and did it, and then Simon came back a few years later and dominated and won the race from the pole in 2019. So, will we see that out of Scott in a couple of years? Probably.
I feel like this race for Scott, there was a lot of hype put around him, and I said this to our friends Joe Donahue and his dad this week. They asked me who I thought was going to win the race, and one of them said Scott McLaughlin. And I said I didn't think so, because this is really Scott's first fair shake at it. I mean, he's wrecked in his first two 500s, and so I felt like he just needed to get to the end of these things, and it's a completely different race once you get to the last 50 laps of the Indy 500. Once you get into that final, two stints, it becomes a different race. I think that's something that Scott McLaughlin, now that he's been through, he'll be able to apply that next year.
Yep, 100%. So yeah, we're gonna keep an eye on that the next couple of years for Scott McLaughlin. I mean, I think it's
super
imminent.
Fast.
Yeah, super fast. I think it is definitely imminent within the next, I don't know, say 3 years. Him winning one, I think it's highly likely. I'd be shocked if he didn't, to be completely honest. Obviously, he's at Penske. He's a great race car driver, we know. And like you said, he now finally has a full Indy 500 under his belt. So he has that experience. So
there will be no Scott McLaughlin shit talking on this podcast, because
hell no, there won't.
Because we respect our fans from down under.
Damn straight we do. Damn straight.
Yeah.
All right. So subsequently, on the alternative pit strategy, we had so many yellows early in this race that a handful of guys were able to take alternate strategy. And the standouts from this strategy, unbelievably, were fucking Stingray Robb and Connor Daly. Now, Connor didn't surprise me. Like, I know Connor can run up front at Indy. He's done it before. But holy shit, when Stingray Robb lined up in the lead, I looked at our group and I said, oh God, this is not going to go well.
Dude had them paws on that car moving, bro.
Yeah, he did. And sure enough, obviously gets passed on the restart, because you get passed on the restart if you're the leader at Indy. And I can't remember if it was 3 that lap or the next lap. He'd taken the lead back, and obviously those guys, the guys on the other strategy were saving fuel, so maybe like McLaughlin wasn't necessarily wanting to get by him right away. But still, I mean, he held on and kept coming back to the front. Him and Connor both, every time it cycled through, were back up front and running well. It looked competitive.
Jesus, take the wheel, take it from my hands.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it was. It's kind of the way it was. All right, so moving on a little further. Colton Herta crashes at lap 86. I did write it down. And really just nosed the car into the barrier.
Yeah.
Could have easily gotten out, could have easily not gotten out, come down pit road, put a new nose on it, and been fine.
Yeah.
And he proceeded to get out. And then they towed it to the garage. And then they put a nose on it. And then they went back out. Which I must have missed when you became allowed to take the car to the garage and come back out in Indy. I always thought you were retired at that point. Maybe
I kind of thought that was odd too. I didn't. Yeah. I'm not on the up and up on the rules.
Maybe it's just not common. I always thought it was a rule. I apologize.
I had to change the nose, so maybe it's just not, because they only had to do that maybe that was why.
Maybe, I don't know. I asked around. Apparently, it's an okay thing to do. I don't know what you're allowed to change. Maybe it is partly that. Like, I don't think you'd be able to like change the entire like suspension or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, got back out there, lost a ton of laps. Could have probably gotten away with it with 1 or 2 laps, maybe. So missed opportunity from Colton. It seemed like he was trying to walk away too. So maybe Colton seems a little less committed than he should be, if I'm being completely honest. Like ever since the whole kerfuffle about him going to Alpha Tauri, whatever it's called now, Visa, Cash App, Racing Bulls, ever since that all happened, I don't know. To me, it seems like he's kind of not. He doesn't seem that committed anymore.
You know what it seems like to me? He's young, and it's probably a lesson that he's going to have to learn. It seems like to me that he has so much talent, and he's a good kid. But it almost seems like to me he's got so much talent that he thinks he doesn't have to, that he thinks he can rely on just that.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, as Trip Tracy, the color commentator for the Carolina Hurricanes, would say, work always comes before skill.
Scott Dixon.
That is Scott Dixon to a T.
But he also puts in the work.
Yep, that is definitely Scott Dixon to a T, for sure. Kyle, okay, so Callum Ilott gets shoved through his pit stall and ends up in front in the 20s pit stall instead of his. But when you watch the replay, it's pretty clear he's in the wrong lane when he begins to decrease his speed.
Yes.
The car behind him is Kyle Kirkwood. He gets a drive-through penalty for that. I don't agree with this call at all.
Dude, no.
No, this is a bad call. This is a bad call.
I saw this, and I mean, dude. Yeah, it wasn't even close. I mean, he made no effort to fade at all. Yep. I mean, he like Townsend Bell said on the broadcast, it's not up to Kyle Kirkwood to know where Callum Ilott's box is. Yeah. So it's that was frustrating. And it sucks because I wanted to give a call to Callum because he did a really good job all month long. Yeah. But that mistake that he ultimately kind of got away with, it's just really kind of put a black eye for me on his month. Or not the month, but his race for sure.
I don't feel like it doesn't hurt how I feel about Callum Ilott's month necessarily.
Yeah.
I just hate it for Kyle because he didn't do anything and he didn't do anything wrong and he gets a freaking drive-through penalty. That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
And he wrecked it in the last year's race, having a great run. And, you know, this year, a lot of people were high on him, thinking he was kind of carrying the flag for Andretti, and he kind of gets shafted.
Yeah. Well, either way, Kyle Kirkwood looked strong and definitely can come back in a year or two and certainly win this race. He's got enough at these tracks at Oval Racing and IMS to come back and win one for sure, I think. So, okay. Soon after that, I can't remember how long, but Pato O'Ward has the save of the decade maybe. Dude. Like absurd.
Ninja hands, bro. Ninja hands.
Well, I mean, the hands are one thing, but it's still hard to believe that it didn't come around on him. I mean,
Josef Newgarden won the Indy 500. Pato O'Ward, if he doesn't hold in everyone's eyes, driver of the race award, I don't know who does. Because and this is getting a little ahead of it, but the discrepancy in how good that 5 car was compared to how good the 2 car was, it was night and day. And he just willed it to where he ended up finishing it, obviously second. But yeah, I mean, that save was incredible.
Yeah. I don't have anything more to add to that. That might be the coolest thing. I wish I had actually seen it happen. It would have probably been too far away for me to actually gotten a good look at it, but I didn't notice it in real time, obviously. So, but yeah, that was awesome. Kudos to Pato for that one for sure. That was awesome.
There's only one other guy. No, I can't even say that. Alexander Rossi, I think. I don't know if Rossi could have made that save, but I believe that he has.
He might have been able to.
he might have been able to. There's another guy, Aaron McLaren, that probably could have made that save too.
I think he did in qualifying, did he not? Not quite that bad, but it was similar. Yeah. Anyway, obviously we're talking about Kyle Larson.
Yes.
Who we've avoided kind of talking about, but I'm of course drenched in it. So eventually we're going to have to talk about him. To my dismay, we're going to end up having to talk about it. Anyway, again, I don't know what lap it is because I'm a dumbass, but Scott Dixon are coming down the back straightaway. Ryan Hunter-Reay tries to take it 3 wide. He has a lane, and Scott Dixon just completely, as Buddy transitions to the Ryan Hunter-Reay hat. Scott Dixon completely ran over Ryan Hunter-Reay. It was obvious to me as I watched it live in person, and it was obvious as I saw it on the replay. No one around us was confused as to what happened. He wrecked him.
Well, let me tell you, I knew I was coming on the show, and before the 500 happened, and I said to myself, make sure you bring this up. Scott Dixon is the Jimmy Johnson of INDYCAR in more ways than one, which is funny because Jimmy Johnson ran INDYCAR. He is, at least to me, it seems Scott Dixon is one of the most underrated 6-time champions there is. Yeah. Like, I mean, he is so good, and his racecraft and his skill level is almost overlooked because of how good his team is. And I feel like that was a lot the way Jimmy Johnson was with Jack and Dallas, and obviously Scott has Mike Hull. And I wanted to make that point, but I'm not going to say that because he did what he did to Ryan Hunter-Reay, because that was really dumb.
Well, in the grandstands, I wanted to make this point. Like, I genuinely
said it.
Well, yeah, but I really like Scott Dixon. I think he's a great ambassador for INDYCAR. I love this, anything, whatever. When he was running up front at the end of this race, I was actively pulling against him because I was going to be very upset if this was the year he won it, because he should have been in the back. I'm sorry, any day of the week, that's a penalty. That is a penalty. That's absurd.
Yeah, 100%.
I do not understand. That was dangerous. That was sincerely dangerous. Kiffin Simpson, shout out to Kiffin Simpson. He probably should have plowed all the way up under Ryan Hunter-Reay, and he did not do it. Great wreck avoidance from Kiffin Simpson. But, like, you don't do that, dude. You have a spotter, and you don't have the excuse of some tracks where you don't have a spotter or whatever, and you obviously have a spotter. He tells you inside. That doesn't mean go to the inside. That means you have a guy inside of you. Don't do it. And for a guy who's raced as smart as Scott Dixon has his entire career, over this past year, I can think of 3 instances where he's done some of the most out there, dumbest shit. Let's think last year, Road America in, I can't remember, it was qualifying or practice. Running off the pace, getting ready for another qualifying run, completely doesn't pay enough attention and destroys Will Power and his own car.
And do you remember what we all said about that? We're like, something must have happened. Something must have broke. Something must have, because it's Scott Dixon. Yeah. It just doesn't happen to him. He just doesn't do things like that. But,
so in that one instance, I'm like, okay, it happens to everybody at some point, right? Let's take a trip back to Thermal. Completely cleaned out. Who did he clean? I can't remember who exactly cleaned out, but it collected Roman Grosjean, and that's why I always remember Grosjean. But anyway, completely cleans someone out and collects another driver and everything. And that was just I mean, he did get penalized for that, luckily. I mean, it was a penalizable offense. And now that's 3 pretty major incidents in the past year.
Once is a mistake, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern.
Yeah,
and
so
we're at that point.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because it's like, I mean, it doesn't like put a stain on Scott Dixon's legacy or anything, but it makes me right now, before when he was racing anybody, I'm like, okay, there's a very low chance of anything happening here or anything bad happening here because it's Scott Dixon. Now I'm like, hey, Scott Dixon.
Yeah. I mean,
it was not quite that bad. It's not quite that bad, but
yeah. I mean, dude, look, We all
I'm glad.
know
I'm really glad I said that. I'm gonna have to bring that up here in a second. You go and alert yourself.
Ryan O'Reilly, he almost made the pass on the grass on Elio there in 14 to win the Indianapolis 500. And look, just because he can do it once, man, don't mean he can do it again. Like, it was...
Well, Elio didn't hit him. That was a big difference.
That was a huge difference. It was just, Yeah.
So, how that was not a penalty from race control, I'm still baffled. I don't understand. Yeah. That's to me, that's as clear as day as it can get to me. That's where I'm at with it. So anyway, let's go back a little bit. I missed this solely because it wasn't in the highlight reel, and I just remembered it now. But I remember being very upset about it at the time, fairly early in the race. I don't remember, 30 laps in, 35, 40, something like that. Alexander Rossi was trying to pass Santino Ferrucci. Ferrucci threw a bad block on Alexander Rossi entering 3. And I'm like, dude, we're 30 laps or so in this race. That is a bad block. I think that should have also been a penalty just to set the tone. Like, dude, we need to stop doing this. I mean, we ended up getting lucky. Like, no one wrecked in 3 and 4 this year, but not for lack of trying. Yeah. Like they were trying to make it happen fairly often. I didn't understand. It seems like in a way IndyCar is taking that NASCAR approach of we don't want to
just about to say that.
We don't want to make the call. Don't make us make the call or whatever. And I'm like, dude, you can't make, especially with the call they made on poor Kyle Kirkwood, you can't let these go. Boys have at it. And then when something like that happens, you make a call. I mean, that completely ruined Kyle Kirkwood's race. He didn't do anything wrong. Scott Dixon tried to kill someone. I'm being hyperbolic, but and no penalty there because, oh man, it's a racing incident. I don't get it.
One of them, the Indy 500 itself will produce you a great race almost every time. You don't have to meddle with it. And it seems like they're race control's trying not to get involved. They're trying to throw red flags at the end of it to make sure we get a green flag finish. They're making a lot of the same mistakes NASCAR makes. And it's frustrating because this is the biggest race in the world. And it's unnecessary. It doesn't need to happen.
I fully agree. All right, so if we can move on from that finally. Lap 114, Marco Andretti completely wrecks on his own. I'm maybe oversimplifying a little bit. He was on the outside, too wide-ish. I can't remember if someone's directly underneath him or whatever. Lost it up the track. Couldn't get it back. Wrecked it. I know Marco owns his own car at this point, but I don't care. Dude needs to retire. It's getting sad.
Dude, look, man, let me tell you. This hurt me a lot because I really thought this was Marco's year.
Did you now?
No.
I was about to say, all right, apparently nothing else interesting happened for 18 laps. And then, of course, lap 132, Kyle Larson entering pit road, speeds from 6th place. I was sad. Yeah. Not gonna lie. I was sad. Well, I'm still a little sad, to be completely honest with you, because he would have had a top 10 finish otherwise. But
let's talk about this in the grand scheme of things, because this obviously put him back in the pack. He ended up finishing 18th. Spoiler alert. But I forget who said it, but someone said Kyle Larson will make a mistake this month. Unfortunately, it came in the race. It was one of those things we were worried about this whole time. Restarts, miss a shift on restart, and then pit road. But that shouldn't take anything away from his month, because you're in top 10 the entire race and looked like a INDYCAR veteran the entire time. I mean, Brett had a fantastic month, which is why he won Rookie of the Year, because he was above and beyond every other rookie out there. And it's frustrating. It sucks. Sped on pit road. Tony Kanaan probably said it to him. Everybody probably said it to him. Scott Dixon did the same thing 2 years ago. Now, forget what we just said about Scott Dixon. He's one of the best out there, if not the best.
Yes.
He is the best out there.
He is.
You can't take anything away from Kyle Smuts. He did such a good job. I know from NASCAR, I know from everybody that I talked to at the Coca-Cola 600, like Kyle or not, they were so proud of what he did this month. He made NASCAR, he actually, loved the sport, get frustrated with it sometimes, but Kyle Larson made NASCAR drivers look like they know what the fuck they're doing. And,
Yep.
it really should. It really can't be overstated.
Yep. I'm getting complete agreement. I'm still proud of Kyle. I'm still super glad I got to see him run the Indy 500, even if it caused some sort of controversy because NASCAR's dumb. Anyway, this is not a NASCAR show. We're not going to get too heavily involved in that. Give the man a fucking waiver. Anyway, alrighty. There was, right after the conclusion of those restarts, Newgarden proceeds to make this was after the starts. Yes, he had gotten past and then held it around the outside of Christian Rasmussen and then at the same time passed Santino Ferrucci. I'm really only bringing this up because obviously that looked pretty similar to what he would end up doing toward the end of the race. And honestly, though, to be fair, a lot of guys ran too wide through 3 and 4 or through 3 during the race. I think it's a lot to do with having a green track. Line. Well, the Scott Sharp line. I think it had to do with it being a little cooler, overcast for a lot of the race.
Yeah.
And it was very green. There weren't a lot of marbles on the outside either. Obviously that helped. But I think it was just a circumstance of the day. If we ran the race at normal time, I don't think you see this.
You look at like a race like 2022, it was very, very hot that day.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about how many guys bust their butt in that race just on their own, much less trying to go too wide. I mean, you could hardly go too wide just because of how sketchy it was. Yeah. So, it was a product of the day. It seemed like I want to give a call to Christian Rasmussen.
Yeah, same.
He did a great job. For a while there, looked like to me like, I don't know, man. He might could give Kyle a run for his money as far as rookie of the year because he drove a great race.
I mean, in my eyes, ultimately, if it wasn't the Kyle Larson effect, I feel like it would be Christian Rasmussen, not just because he ran good all day, but because he was hanging with a guy with significantly more racing, just general racing experience than himself.
So his month, what his month reminded me of? His month reminded me of Callum Ilott. You didn't really talk about it much, but he had a good month.
Yeah,
the entire time. I remember when we were at your house after Wilkesboro watching some practice practice.
Mm-hmm.
I had never really heard much about this dude, and I kind of took note. I'm like, wow, looks like he's having a pretty good month. I like I said, I'd never heard of him. I was like, okay, he's going to be probably in the back row shootout. He's going to finish 25th, and I was completely wrong.
Yeah, it's like he's on Ed Carpenter Racing right now. It's kind of an unfortunate thing because they're only good at Indy right now.
Yeah.
Like they don't have anything anywhere else. So he's had a really rough season so far. Now I say that VK, he's definitely been worse than VK. So there's definitely a bar there. He's been below it. Yeah. And I've been kind of down on him this whole season. Cause like, I know he's a rookie, but damn dude, he wrecked like 3 or 4 times already. And that's not a good look, but to come into Indy and look so confident is the way I'm going to put it it's a huge, I think I'm going to call it a kick in the ass, not in a bad way, but in a good way. It's got to be just a huge momentum boost for that team as a whole. Cause like VK ran pretty good on Sunday and also Christian ran great. And Ed was the guy behind holding up the line.
I mean, look, and even if he is, I mean, Elio's made a whole career out of being just good at Indianapolis.
That's fair. That's 100% fair.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we're not Elio Castroneves fans on this channel.
no, I definitely am not. I've met the guy several times. Definitely not a fan. But I mean, dude, let's be real here. I don't want to shit on INDYCAR on your show, but would you rather be good at just Indianapolis, or would you rather be good at everywhere but Indianapolis? You pick.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Newgarden was for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of, I wouldn't say it's flipped. He won almost every oval last year, but
Will Power, man, he said it right there.
Yep.
INDYCAR champion, won however many races and that many more poles. But show me respect, motherfucker. You know? So, yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I'm assuming some people who've watched this have been, but if you haven't been to the Indy 500, it's hard to glean the vibe off of it from TV. Like, I could always tell
it's not.
Buddy's terrible Buddy's terrible as far as this goes.
No. I'm complimenting it.
Okay.
I watched the broadcast. I watched how it's presented. I watched how Lee Diffie obviously is, a master class of a commentator. Townsend Bell and James Hinchcliffe, they play off each other very well. I think they're as good of a duo as Sam Posey and Bobby Unser. The way it is presented, if you can't gather how important this race is and how big this is, then maybe
could you real quick question? Could you gather that when it was the ABC broadcast, like just as well? Could you gather that?
It depends on which ABC broadcast. Like Alan Bestwick sold it very well.
He did.
Himself.
He did.
Alan Bestwick himself sold it very well.
I just mean,
so
like when I went to my first 500, I was 18. It was 2016. I knew Indy was a big deal. Like I knew how many people went, and I knew like it was a big deal, but I feel like I hadn't caught the vibe until I actually went. But I don't know, maybe so like it was exactly what you thought it was when you got there, and it wasn't like more than what you thought it was. I know you were, for the record, not to talk shit about Buddy, but he was a little down after his 500 experience.
No, and that was...
there's some personal reasons for that, but...
There are personal reasons for that has nothing to do with Indianapolis. I'll put it like that. It was a point in my life. Which is why, breaking news on the show, I'm strongly considering making a rerun at the Indianapolis 500 next year.
Oh, shit! Let's go!
Strongly considering it. We will see what happens. A lot of it depends on a certain race down under there, not in Australia or New Zealand, but in Mexico. If that happens, then there will be some decisions to be made. But
well, all right, you heard it here first, folks.
I'm gonna give you a bombshell on your first podcast.
Well, I appreciate it. On Sunday, we got up early to go watch the bomb go off, and today here on this podcast, we heard the bomb go off, and I'm gonna tweet. Buddy bomb. I'm gonna tweet that this is in fact happening, and it's guaranteed. I'm gonna tweet that anyway.
All right.
All right. So anyway. Lap 147. Let's get back on schedule here.
Yes.
Lap 147. Will Power crashed in turn one, putting an end to his, I would say, disappointing Indy 500. I never really noticed him again after maybe lap 35 or 40 or something.
Dude, he was fast, but that's all I really saw out of him this month. I saw he was fast, and it didn't seem like Will Power's month.
Yeah.
It just didn't. He seemed fast, but I never at any point did I get the vibe that Will Power is going to win the Indy 500 this year.
Yeah, 100%.
It didn't pass the vibe check.
Yeah, like a Will Power win has a vibe to it. Like I think, or like an impending Will Power win, it kind of has a vibe to it, and it definitely was not this week.
Will Power strikes me as a one-time Indy winner. Like he got the one, he's happy with it.
See, the only reason I'm going to say I'm not sure about that is because I thought he was always going to be a one-time champion too. And then out of nowhere, he did that again. So that's the only reason I'm going to say I'm not sure about that. Yeah. But anyway. All right. The restart from that incident, Josef Newgarden passes 4 guys in turn 1 or by turn 1. I can't remember exactly. I think coming out of 1, he had made 4 passes. This set up the end of the race for sure. Skip forward to lap 175. At the conclusion of the green flag pit stops, the 2 and the 7 came out together, and that was the battle for the win. They got out in front of Scott Dixon, and that became the battle for the win.
They said it on the broadcast.
Yep. And it was looking to be the battle for the win up until, I don't know, what was it, 10 to go when Pato got by?
He got past Rossi. I think it was more like 7 to go.
7 to go, okay.
Yeah.
So about 7 to go, Pato gets by Rossi, unbeknownst to me in the stands at the time, and maybe everyone, because we didn't know, a lot of people didn't seem to know what happened to Rossi at the end of the race. He had some sort of fuel issue, like they didn't get it full or something. I think that was...
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, that's how he ended up losing. He lost 3rd spot to Scott Dixon at the end because he ran out of fuel.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I feel like Pato passed him straight up, but I can't remember if he had to back off or not.
Dude, I mean, it's hard to tell because Pato at the end of that race had very much I'm him vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And Josef Newgarden did as well. Let me be straight. But Pato took it to another level.
Yeah.
He, like I said earlier, he had the car and he didn't have the car, and he was willing that car to a position to win the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen the onboard until today when I rewatched like the highlight reel. That thing is out of the track. Like I don't understand how he was able to make that thing go where it did. Like
we talked on the phone last night, and I told it to you. I said he made the save of the century.
Yeah,
and the car was fishtailing the entire time. And you were like, "Yeah, it's crazy." You know, you didn't really think much of it. I'm glad you've seen it.
Yeah, now that
shit.
Yeah. Now that I've really seen it for what it was, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I'd have noticed this in the moment. I knew that car wasn't what Newgarden's was. Like, you could just tell it wasn't quite the same
he told
thing.
It to us all month long.
Yeah.
He told, and the
speed charts showed it too. Like, they were not, the McLaren cars were not quite the Penske cars on the speed charts. We could see that.
It proved us right and proved us wrong. Because he was right. His car didn't have the speed. It didn't handle great at all. He told us that all month. But I think most of us out there were like, Pato O'Ward will put himself in a position to contend for this Indy 500. And he did.
I mean, Pato showed he's like you said, he is him. And I don't know, dude. Like, I really wish I'd have known that in the moment, because I would have appreciated it a lot more. Obviously, you can appreciate it in hindsight, and it is whatever. And obviously, I appreciated that he was doing what he did. I knew he didn't have quite that car. Anyway, so anyway, we get down to the end. Pato O'Ward, they come to the start-finish line for 1 to go. Makes the move on Josef Newgarden. He's in the lead, which is where you want to be, I guess.
It's hard to tell with these cars because so much has changed since they added the aero screen. And I think this car, well, obviously temperature has a lot to do with it. We've seen how much that sways how good of a race it ends up being, or at least competitive it ends up being towards the end of it when everyone's pushing. Yeah. And it seems to me the combination of that and several years with this car, I know a lot of people want to change the car, but it does seem like, at least for Indy, it seems like it's consistently getting better.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a better racing product than we did, the first year of this car, or the first year we had the aero screens.
Yeah, and I was ready to come on here and make the point that it's great for the top 2 cars, but 3rd place is stuck. And then I rewatched it, and I'm like, wait a minute, Pato was 4th with 15 to go.
He was. Yep.
So I don't think that's true either. I mean, it is if your car's not good enough, but if your car's good enough.
He passed at least one car that was arguably better than him all day and all month.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Got
Rossi,
Dixon debatable, and
yeah, Dixon kind of
he
came
was
out of
just lucky
nowhere.
to skate by Dixon without getting
Destroyed.
clotheslined.
Yeah, without getting destroyed. But yeah, the 7 was definitely better than him all month. And again, I'm not sure how much the fuel issue was, and the issue there for Alexander Rossi. I'm not sure about that. But when he got in front of him, either way, whether Dix or Rossi had to let him go or not, he contended. It wasn't like he just got up there and like, oh, I'm here. I can't do anything. He contended, especially with how out of the damn track, like I said, how out of the fucking track that thing was. He contended, and he looked like he belonged, which obviously he does belong, but not with that car. No one else would have contended with that car. I'm sorry. No. I don't think anyway. I don't think anyone else would have even kind of contended with that car.
I think someone else next year could contend with that car.
Maybe
Kyle Larson. If you didn't get that.
Yes,
I know people at home.
No one in this year's race could have contended with that car. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he tries to snake down the back. I do think he made the mistake here. I think going all the way below the line, right out of turn 2, I think that kind of did him in.
Definitely seemed like it scrubbed speed.
Yeah, it definitely scrubbed some speed. I don't know if he would have been able to hang on all the way to the start-finish line, but I think he would have had the lead in 3 and 4.
I don't know, dude. Because Newgarden caught him so quick. And everyone's hyping up this pass by Newgarden. It was a great pass. Don't get me wrong.
It really was.
But he cleared up pretty good. Like,
yeah.
I'm not entirely sold on the fact that the speed that Pato scrubbed off of 2 going down below the line was the difference in him at least having the lead off 4.
Yeah.
And if he had the lead off 4, I think he probably wins the race. I don't think Joseph could have gotten close enough to him following through 3 and 4 to get there the start finish line is not in the middle, it's further down, but I don't think it would have been enough.
It would have been close. It would have been I think it would have been a side-by-side finish if it hadn't, for sure.
Probably would have been the closest Indy 500.
In the moment, I was surprised that they made it through. Like, I thought Rossi was about to win the race, and then hindsight, Dixon would have won the race because Rossi was going to run out of fuel. That I didn't know was going to happen. That would have been really frustrating, especially since he should have been penalized. I'm going to say it again. He should have been penalized for wrecking Ryan Hunter-Reay. Anyway. But yeah, in the moment, I was like, oh, wow, I cannot believe they made it through that corner side by side like that. It looked in the moment in person, it kind of looked a lot closer than it actually, I think it might have been a little bit, like you said, Joseph was
controlled.
Yeah, it was a little bit more controlled.
Yeah, especially we saw the second lane be a little bit more viable.
Yes. But in hindsight, I'm really surprised they made it through because Pato's car was such a freaking handful. Like,
you saw it when Newgarden crossed across, when Pato crossed this way.
Oh, yeah. He pushed up back in front. So far. He pushed up. I thought he had wrecked it into the wall at that point, to be honest.
I thought Pato maybe had another shot had that not happened.
Yeah, which, as soon as that happened, it was like pretty much everyone in the grandstand was like, yep, Newgarden got this. It's over.
And that does show how big that pass was. So I kind of take back what I said, because as much as that car was out of the race, or as loose as that car was, it definitely had a hell of a push off turn 3.
Well, I think that's just a product of it. That's a product of it not being in the track, and then the aero wash is going to make a bigger impact on it.
Yeah, I don't understand air very well.
I like to pretend I do, and I like to talk like I do, but I don't think I really fully understand air.
If you listen to the Big Motor Small Plate podcast, we pretend like we know air quite a bit.
We pretend like we know everything on the Big Motor Small Plate podcast.
That's true. That's very true.
The only thing we do understand is that NASCAR short track package is awful. But anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So, obviously, Josef Newgarden wins the Indy 500, goes back-to-back, stands on business. First time in 22 years that someone's won back-to-back.
Since 2001, 2002, and allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. Good way of putting it. I guess you could kind of say that for this one, too. It was kind of allegedly, since last year's was a little bit.
Well, and that's one thing. That's one thing about Newgarden is I said Pato was him. Newgarden was also, he had very much main character energy, and I'm him. And I mean, there's a lot to go with it. You know, he spent however many years trying to win the Indy 512, 12 years trying to win the Indy 500. He finally wins it, and it was largely criticized because of the way it ended. Yeah. And this one he got, and then this year he obviously has the issue with the push to pass, plug the show. And there's a lot of people, including myself, that, you know, believe that, you know, Josef Newgarden a little bit tainted this year because of that. I still kind of feel that way. But I'm not going to take anything away from the fact that, you know, he backed up what he did last year, which is, that much more impressive given everything going against him.
And here's the thing for me is it kind of just the way he won this race, because he kind of hung out for a lot of the day. And then about 50 laps to go or whatever it was, he just, like you said, it turned into main character energy, and he was up in the front.
It definitely seemed like he had a car where if he wanted to go, he could go.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it seemed like, and he recognized it early, and he never pushed the issue early. He was just kind of like, he was just content. I'm going to stay back here. I'm going to hang on to it. We're going to stay clean, do whatever. And when it was go time, it wasn't anybody better than him. And I don't know what else you could say. Like, he did what he was supposed to do, and he won the damn race. So
I don't know what was stronger, the aero wash Pato got off of 3, or the aero wash Josef gave that cameraman down in the grandstands after the victory celebration. He knocked that dude on his ass without even touching him. He obviously tripped, but
I think what do we think about the enter the grandstands celebration? I think it's kind of cool.
I like it because as much as I don't care too much for Elio, the climbing the fence definitely seemed natural. It seemed like an in the moment thing for Elio. And that's how I feel about the climbing in the grandstands from Newgarden. It definitely felt last year, me watching it live, I looked at it and I go, that dude doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. That is what he felt was appropriate in the moment. And he's like, I just won the biggest race in the world I've been trying to win. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do right now. Yeah. And he did it, and it was so cool. And you know what? He owns it now.
Yep.
So I'm a fan.
I agree. That's where I'm at with it. Yeah, last year was crazy because when they showed it on the stands or showed it on the video boards, he ducked under it. We're like, where the fuck did he go?
It looked like the running of the bulls, dude. Like, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
And then this year, obviously, they're prepared for it, so it looked a little different this year. But
I don't know what's more impressive: his drive to win the race, or his agility after the race.
Dude is athletic.
He swooped through the damn fence.
Yeah,
like a damn cat. Like a cat going underneath a door or something. And then like he cleared that fence.
Oh yeah,
he cleared that fence like he was like he stole someone's lunch money. Like
in the there was a football commentator named Gus Johnson, and some guy had a long touchdown one time, and he said, "quote He's got that getting away from the cop speed." That's what Josef's got.
That is exactly use of that this weekend. Good.
Yeah. So Josef wins the 500 back to back. I'll just talk about being there for a minute. I'll be honest. It's probably the second or third best 500 I've been to. This was my 7th 500. The only ones that might not be better than were maybe 21, and 16's iconic for me. Like, that's never going to top, I don't think.
Well, that's a high bar. The 100th running, Alexander Rossi, the first, or being a rookie.
Yeah.
And then Elio winning his quote unquote 4th. I feel like even if this is 3rd, that's a pretty high praise.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I genuinely had, I didn't have, as far as the race experience, I didn't have any issues. I had no complaints whatsoever for me. So yeah, great time. Again, if you have not been to an Indy 500, you need to go. It's hard to explain until you've gone. Obviously, like Buddy said, you can get an idea from watching it on TV, but you're never going to feel it. It's never going to feel right until you're there. And then once you feel it, it's there forever. I feel. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's the way I feel about it, especially if you're a diehard race fan. It's the place you need to be, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Indy 500 is... I have been to over 20 Coca-Cola 600. It's my race. I claim it. It is my favorite race of the year. But it is a bucket list item, and it is something that everyone should do at least once, if not a couple of times. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than, what you just said. I do want to touch on Pato. Obviously, this is the third straight year he's had an opportunity at the 500, or at least he's been the guy at the end of it. And to see the heartbreak on his face, is just, my heart broke for Pato. I was obviously a Pato fan. And I was in the grandstands at Charlotte watching it. And my mom and I, we go to a lot of races together. Her and I are both Daniel Suarez fans. Obviously, from Monterrey, Mexico, Pato Award. So we're both pulling for Pato. And, dude, it's good that, because I was a big Ryan Hunter-Reay fan, got behind him, and then, kind of fell off there. I got behind him kind of late in his career. It's good to have another driver in INDYCAR, because I saw myself banging on the little food tray in front of me, like, go. Yeah, I was into it, man. It was one of those moments where it's like, okay, hey, as devastating as it was to see him lose the race, it was like, all right, I have a dog in this fight again.
Yeah,
and
it's nice to feel something.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, my heart broke for Pato, man. David Lynn says it all the time. He's gonna win the Indy 500, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I mean, the concerning thing is, and I think ultimately he's in a better position than Carlos Munoz ever was. But if you just look at the Indy 500, it kind of feels like Carlos Munoz, where he was like really good there for a few years, and then he just kind of fell off the face of the earth. Obviously, Pato's like the guy at McLaren, and he's a great race car driver. Outside of that, they need to step it up. That team needs to step it up outside of the Indy 500 for sure. But And I mean, we've seen guys go decades and not win it. So hopefully for his sake, he gets one in the next couple of years, so we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with everyone. I think he is bound for it at some point. I think I'd be shocked if he wasn't. So,
I'm not going to let you get off that easy talking about Kyle Larson.
Okay, we can talk about Kyle Larson now.
Let's talk about this double attempt.
Attempt is a strong word at this point.
What did you think about the decision to run the Indianapolis 500 opposed to the Coca-Cola 600? Because we saw pretty much from January 20, whatever it was last year, up until last week, our priority is the Coca-Cola 600. Our priority is the number 5 car. Our priority is NASCAR and winning the championship. And then the tides turned last week when Rick Hendrick sat down with, I don't remember who, and they asked him, when it game time decision, do you pull Kyle Larson out of the Indy 500? And Rick Hendrick said, it'd be very hard for me to do that. And obviously they didn't. What was that? What was that like? What was the consensus from people there on the IndyCar side of things?
So all I can tell you is my experience with it. So my experience with it was we got into the grandstands about an hour before the scheduled start time. And the people around us had said that, I guess they played an interview on the TV. I think it was a Kanan interview on the TV, and they had said that they were telling us that this was Kyle's priority, which I was surprised to hear. I thought they were about to fly home. And we got back, hung out for a bit. I'm like devastated at this point because it starts raining, and I'm devastated. I'm like, he's not going to run. This is really upsetting. Like, it's disappointing.
Yeah.
And I start reading more and more. We start seeing, I think David tweeted from the media center and said, the consensus here is that Kyle Larson is staying.
Yeah.
And I think it was the right call. I don't think you can leave the Indy 500 with a 5th place starting car. If you're a serious race car driver, I don't think you can leave the Indy 500. And the amount of people online who are in one way or the other saying that it's a bad look for NASCAR, this, that, or the other, because you're admitting that you're not as big as something. Newsflash, guys. The Indy 500 is bigger than the Coca-Cola 600. And I know it's your favorite race. I know a lot of people love the Coca-Cola 600. I have no problem with the Coca-Cola 600. I had a great time at it last year. I would never skip the Indy 500 for it. I just wouldn't.
Dude,
and that's as a race fan. That's not as a driver entered in the race.
High tides raise all ships.
Yes.
And the thing that was going to raise all ships was Kyle Larson running the Indianapolis 500. Yep. I was in Charlotte. No, I wanted to see Kyle Larson complete the double, but I was pulling for him to stay in Indy. It's the Indy 500. It's bigger than the INDYCAR championship.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I'm sorry. These guys get to run it every year, and it's still bigger than their championship. Kyle doesn't get that opportunity every year. You don't know if you're coming back. You don't know if this might be your only opportunity to live out a dream. And live out a dream for not just Kyle Larson, live out a dream for Jeff Gordon. I'm sure it became a dream for Rick Hendrick. Live out a dream for, the late Robin Miller. Live out a dream for how many thousands upon millions of race fans to see Kyle Larson, who is largely regarded as the greatest race car driver in the world, run the greatest race in the world. It's bigger than waivers. It's bigger than playoffs. It's bigger than one Coca-Cola 600 that he's won before and that he could win tomorrow. It's the Indy 500. So
100%. And I mean, and to piggyback off of the teardown, Jeff Gluck said, he's like, I don't remember who he said he was talking to, but people in an airport in France were talking about Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen if he's not in the Indy 500. People in France aren't watching the Coca-Cola 600. That's just the case.
That's how it is. Yeah.
That is how it is. And it makes sense. The Indy 500 is a worldwide brand.
Now, well, hang on. I do got to refute that a little bit because I was sitting directly next to someone. Shout out to, I don't know if he'll listen to this. Shout out to my new friend Pete. He's from England. He flew all the way there to go to the Coca-Cola 600. Feel very sorry for him.
A handful of people from okay. I mean, I understand your point, but a handful of people would be interested in that.
It is widely regarded as the great. It's called the greatest spectacle in racing, and it's widely regarded as the biggest race in the world. Yeah, and there's a reason for it. So this is 100%. bigger than just a race, or it's bigger than motorsports. I'll put it like that.
Ultimately, if I want to break it down, I'm ecstatic that Kyle stayed. I'm disappointed that it ended the way it did. Ultimately, I'm still proud of him. I think he did a great job. I think he represented himself and NASCAR very well. And like you said earlier, he made a mistake that guys like Scott Dixon have made. Graham Rahal made that mistake on the same lap. And Graham Rahal's been in IndyCar forever. So it's unfortunate. It happens. He was beating himself up, I think, a little too much. I understand why he was disappointed. Kyle. It's Kyle, and I understand why he was disappointed. The whole day was ultimately kind of a disappointment for him. I understand all that. But ultimately, I'm still, as a fan, I'm proud of him. I think he did great. For the whole month, I think he did great. For the race, I think he did great for the most part. and completed the race, which was honestly at the start all I wanted to see. I wanted to see him compete or complete it. And he did that. He looked really good at points doing it. And like I said, I'm proud of him. So
does he run next year?
God, I hope so. I think he does. I don't
see how he doesn't. Yeah.
As far as I understand, the contract it's up to him. That is my understanding. Now it might be up to him, Rick Hendrick, and Jeff Gordon.
I heard something that said it's not just a 2-year deal. It's as long as he wants to run it.
See, that's what I kind of figured it would be. Because like I figured Kyle would get like the bug from doing this.
Yeah.
But maybe after this he won't want to do it every year.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see it being like maybe after next year because he's like, I need to do it right this time.
But he could do it.
He could. I mean, he certainly could.
I think he could. I think he might want to. I mean, you see him run the Knoxville Nationals.
Yep.
I mean, and fly home at ungodly hours of the night and walk through the Pagoda Plaza in Indianapolis half asleep and me yelling at him.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it'd be awesome if he becomes a regular Indy only guy.
Because I think
he's one of the few guys that, because you see a lot of these Indy only guys, they run okay, but they don't win most of the time. I think Kyle Larson is one of the few guys, because he is who he is, that could do it.
Yeah, 100%. I think he at least would want to run it until he won it, because I think he wants that on his resume.
Yeah, exactly.
He's too big of a Stewart and Foyt fan and type of guy.
What is he missing? He is. What is he? He's got the NASCAR championship. He's got the Knoxville Nationals. He's got the Rolex 24. This is it. This is it.
Chili Bowl.
Chili Bowl. Yes. Yeah. So
I only mentioned that because he would definitely mention it if he said it.
True. Very true. Very true. But yeah.
Yeah, this is the big thing. I mean, Daytona, but whatever. He's never going to win Daytona because, unless they change something and make it like a regular race, he's never going to win Daytona.
Yeah.
But yeah. Cool. All right. I have some ready to go. So do you have a sundress and dumbass by chance?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So sundress, would you like to? I will go first then.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to go with Christian Rasmussen. I thought he was great this month, and he's not getting enough because obviously Kyle Larson's taking up a lot of screen time. So he's not getting quite enough praise, and I'm going to go ahead and give him some. He did great. He did a great job this month.
Okay, got to think of a new sundress. Go ahead and give your dumbass.
My dumbass is race control for not penalizing Scott Dixon. I get it. It's Scott Dixon. You assume there must have been a reason, but I'm sorry. Any day that ends in Y, that's a fucking penalty, and it should have been called.
Sundress, and I'm gonna sound like a Gomer here, but
it's Pato.
I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it to Pato because of this. Because he got out of that race car, and so many times we see race car drivers get out of the car and they hide their emotions and they don't want to feel vulnerable. They don't want to. He got out of the car and was vulnerable to the world, but you know what it did? It told all of us, even though we already knew it. It told all of us how big this is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you don't get this from any other race in the world. He got out of that car like his dog had just died.
Yeah.
It is it's the Indy 500. It's like I just got done saying with Kyle Larson, it is bigger than just a race. It makes people's lives. And he portrayed that very, very well after the race. Like I said, my heart breaks for him, but I'm giving him sundress. Dumbass. Took my dumbass too, which I kind of knew you were going to do that.
I'm about to say I'm pretty standard. That's stock standard answer from me.
I think I'm gonna go Kyle Larson for speeding on pit road. We'll go
fair.
With
that. That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I do have one more thing.
Okay.
So I actually talked to our friend Andrew Curlin when I was in Charlotte.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, "Hey, I need to talk to you. We need to get some content. I said, okay. So I went and found him, and he asked me a very good question on the spot. And I was proud of my answer and kind of not proud of my answer as well. He asked me, who is the next guy you want to see the double? And I kind of piggybacked off of Ryan Blaney. He gave a press conference earlier in the day or earlier in the weekend, and he said that he wants to see himself and Scott McLaughlin do it together. And I piggybacked off of that and said, I'm throwing out the gauntlet to any IndyCar driver because we haven't seen it go the other way. We've seen, obviously, Tony Stewart, Robbie Gordon, John Andretti, all IndyCar guys, but they were in their NASCAR era when they did it. I want to see an IndyCar guy go and do it. And so that's who any IndyCar guy. I think Scott McLaughlin's a good one. I think Pato is a potential one. Obviously, it's harder because it's harder to. I don't want to say it's harder to adapt.
There's so much less track time.
Exactly. There's so much less track time. And yeah, I feel like at least IndyCar you see has, I don't know.
What they could do is there's enough NASCAR off weeks. Instead of having the whole month of May to do Charlotte stuff, they could just get more comfortable with the car, say enter a few 1.5 mile races at the start of the season. Like they could enter like Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what works and doesn't work with the IndyCar schedule, but pick a couple and start to get that. And I think by the time these guys are great race car drivers, by the time you get a third race, you'd be like, okay, I'm comfortable with this car. I got it. Like I can at the very least not look stupid or whatever.
Yeah. But just for the simple fact, it would be a feat to just in its own to go and do it. Yeah. I feel like, and I'll let you answer here in just a second. I feel like a lot of us were maybe disappointed with Kyle Larson's result in the Indy 500, and we don't know what would have happened in Charlotte, and he wouldn't have gotten to complete the whole thing. But I said it in our Coke 600 bandwagoners guide. I said, it's not a question of Kyle Larson can complete the double. It's a question if Kyle Larson can win the double, because he could. But that it shouldn't get lost in the all of everything that it's just a feat to complete it. So I want to see an IndyCar guy do it.
Well, I mean, Saturday there was a whole big group of us talking about this, and I said I'm not looking for Kyle to win the race this tomorrow. Like I'm not looking for that really. I think
You're looking for him to win it Monday because it was going to rain.
Well, okay. At that point, I was being obnoxious with hoping the race rained out because I thought Kyle was going to leave if it didn't. Yeah. But anyway, no, I was looking for Kyle to look like he belonged out there. Really, that's all I was looking for. And ultimately, I have a bad habit of underestimating Kyle because he does a bunch of stupid shit in NASCAR, because he's way too comfortable with it. And like, it doesn't really matter if you have 15 DNFs in the regular season, as long as you win the other 5 races or 5 of the other races or whatever. So it's one of the, like, I'm always like I said, so I told you this earlier, but when they went through turn 1 and like, I knew in my head it was too far back for it to have been Kyle, but there was that part of me was like, but what if it was? And like the TV just didn't catch it or something. And I'm just like, I was like worried the whole time that he'd just go and look stupid.
He was just locked in, bro.
And I know he's a great driver, but nothing he did before this, other than I guess the Rolex 24. But even then, it's like I don't know how much. Like I don't know how much he could have gotten away with not using the tools in the car. Which, as far as I know, he ran fast laps. But there's just so many tools in the car, and I didn't know if he'd be able to adapt to that to a satisfactory level to compete. And again, like I said, I sold him short because he looked like he knew exactly what he was doing from the beginning. So yeah, what an ambassador. An ambassador for our series.
So,
or
answer
NASCAR,
the question.
for NASCAR. What was the question?
Who do you want to see do the double next?
Josef Newgarden.
Oh, okay.
That's a serious
You're
answer.
You're calling out an Indy guy too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I've said for a long time I want to see him run a NASCAR race. I think he said Bristol night race.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, I would love to see. Josef Newgarden is so good on ovals.
Yeah.
Like, he needs to run something in NASCAR at some point. So that's the guy I'm calling out for sure.
I mean, it's too late now, but I mean, fuck, dude. Like, have him run Iowa in a Cup car one of these years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he'd be all right.
Or, if we don't get Iowa next year for some reason, then have him run Richmond. If one of them, I'm sure one of them will add up.
Yeah.
Have him run
Phoenix.
one of them.
Yeah.
Phoenix, something he's run before, or something similar to what he's run before in an IndyCar.
I mean, Kyle Larson said it wasn't that different than the Cup car anyway, so. Yeah.
Kyle's so nonchalant about everything, though.
He is. Yeah. Yeah. But
anyway, yeah. Do we got anything else, buddy?
we could give our picks for next year's Indianapolis 500.
Next year's Indianapolis 500?
I feel like that'd be fun to get back and look at this.
All right. I'm going to go with, I think Josef Newgarden 3 beats.
Are you serious?
Yeah. No?
No shot, no.
Okay.
And here's why.
Because Pato's going to win?
I think that Pato could win. I mean,
duh.
it'd be the call of the century if this happened, and I said it right here. I think Kyle Larson wins. I think he does it again, and he wins. I'll put it. I think Kyle Larson will win the double.
Wow. All right, I'm going to give you another. I'm going to give you an option to pick another guy as well in case Kyle doesn't run.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
I want to say Pato, but I don't want to be a shill. And I would say McLaughlin, but I feel like he needs to lose one before he can win one. I don't think I wouldn't classify any Indy 500 he's been in yet as him losing one. Alexander Rossi.
Okay.
I feel like
that's one that feels like it's been coming for a long time.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good pick. So you got two good Arrow McLaren picks there.
I do.
And
yes.
I see, because genuinely in this race, I didn't think Josef was going to be the guy. And then all of a sudden, he's just there and he's him. And I feel like someone's going to have to come up and knock him off the pedestal right now. That's it feels like Josef Newgarden at Indy is king of the hill, and someone's going to have to come up and drag him down the hill.
I think we have quite the gauntlet right now, because I think there are the new Newgarden and the Ward and the Rossi and even the Dixon, as bad as he was all month long, as dumb as some of the moves he made was, he's still there. Yeah, because he's always there. And I said this to Joe and Dave too. I said I think Scott Dixon could win it. They go, he's been terrible all month. I go, wouldn't this be the year? Obviously it wasn't, but yeah, he's just always there. I think those four guys, but it's good. We've talked about this in NASCAR, how you've complained about the parity in NASCAR and how it just seems gimmicky. And I get that, and I think it applies here at Indianapolis. You don't want to see a different winner every single year, because then it seems like anybody can win it.
I think it's a little different in this case, just because you have so much prep time. Like, if you're off a little bit at the beginning, you got so much time to get it back.
That's true, but let me be clear. A good friend of ours, I won't name his name, but he said he was going to jump off the top of the grandstands if Marcus Ericsson won the Indy 500. Yeah, and to me, it
spoiler
was like,
alert, he didn't do that.
No, he didn't. It still seems weird to me. It's the most random thing in the world to me.
And then he almost did it again.
Which sold me more on it. But at Indy, I feel like we have those 4 guys, like I said, specifically are.
Well, don't sleep. I would say don't sleep on Alex Palou.
The only reason I say that is because he's had the car at least 2 years and he's got in that Scott McLaughlin category that I put him in this year, in that he had maybe the car, but it didn't really seem like when it came down to it, he could.
Well, 21 he was pretty close.
Really? I can't. I don't
21
really
he was really close. Well. I agree with you. I think that's the only one. Like, I don't think he's had 2 or 3 or whatever he's been. Yeah. Well, I say that. It's the problem is last year he got taken out in the pits and he didn't get a chance to show it. Well, actually he did. He still got back up to, I think, the top. I think he got to 6 or something. Yeah. So, yeah, I think there's 2 where he was like the guy or one of the guys and was really close.
Yeah.
So
I'll put it like this. I feel like I could be completely wrong in this, but I've kind of put willpower in this category as well. And this is the category that Josef Newgarden was in for a while, and Scott Dixon is in. He just happens to be great and good at both, even though he does stupid stuff. I kind of put Alex Palou in the category I put willpower in that those are guys that are looking for the INDYCAR title. Those are guys that could win the Indy 500 easily, absolutely. But they're not the guy I would look at.
No, that's fair. That's fair. All right. Got anything else? I think we're done, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we appreciate y'all if you've gone all the way to the end. We appreciate you watching all the way to the end.
Leave us some feedback. This is our first INDYCAR podcast. We've done an Indy 500 show every year that we've had the channel, but leave us some feedback. What you guys think?
Yeah, let us know. If you hated it, let us know. If you liked it,
please do.
Let us know. But anyway, this has been the first ever actual full podcast episode of Push to Pass. I've been Seth. I got it right again somehow. He's been Buddy, and he won't always be on if we do this, and this is not going to be a recurring thing. I'm probably just going to go back to doing the videos, the shorter videos here for a while. Yeah. But at some point,
we are looking for a co-host.
Yes, and I got some ideas of some people I might talk to about it. We'll see. But anyway, we appreciate y'all watching, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to the first ever podcast episode of Push to Pass. I'm Buddy Pulley. Here's temporary. Oh wait, fuck.
Hang on.
I'm not Buddy Pulley. Let me take that again. That was not on purpose.
Oh, that was real.